be careful. Inverse, they got to pull something out of the hat right now.
Yeah, there's just a whole lot of sort of lockdown and team fight strength on that BINOMISTAS side. And as you were saying for Inverse, alluded to it a little bit earlier on in the draft, when you're the team that's maybe got the odds against them, a lot of the times you need to maybe try and have some sort of trump card, something that's going to take your opponents by surprise. As you said, Inverse, very adept at sort of changing things up, being flexible in their drafting. That is something that, if it's a calling card for the Inverse side, they need to deploy it here and now against this BINOMISTAS lineup in order to just try and maybe get a leg up on them. Do something that your opponents won't necessarily be expecting. Try to put them on the back foot in that sort of manner. But, well, that's, well, I don't know if I would say unexpected. We've been seeing the Luna sort of popping up quite a bit in recent times, but it is going to give Inverse a nice bit of, really at this point, just about everything they need. A good farming hero, high damage. You've got the Eclipse to throw out there if you're looking for that sort of teamfight strength to counteract BINOMISTA. So see how well that works out for them. But over on the other side, the TB will be deployed for that BINOMISTAS roster.
Yep, you pick up the best carry in the game. You get a very good matchup versus the Luna as well. No real hero to sort of play against you. And you get TB versus Veno. Beanomistas just have everything they want. If the Veno ever skills up, it's just terrible. You just reflect the Venomancer. He immediately starts poison stinging himself. It's pretty much unlaneable for the Veno, so he's going to need to be very careful. Otherwise, it is just going to start to become impossible. And I am really worried for Inverse right now because at this point, we didn't see this with Hikori, right? Hikori, they picked the Magnus, they picked the Snapfire, they picked heroes that could be flexed around, that could be moved up and down. They picked the Mars, but now everything feels pretty cemented in their lineup. So unless Inverse really have some last pick that really sends everything out in the open, I think Bina misses. They just get out those easy counters. It really looks like Inverse need a mid laner right now. So maybe you ban out the Kunkka, maybe you ban out the Bat Rider, and then what do you do? I don't think at the point that Dota is in right now, you don't have that like last pick Meepo, last pick Broodmother that's an auto win. So I really feel scared for Inverse because right now Bino Misas, they have honestly one of the most solid drafts I think I've seen to date. It just feels like all around they've got everything they want.
Yeah, you can't really identify, I would say, a weak point in the draft. Obviously, heroes like Nyx and Disruptor are not the tankiest. They could theoretically be picked off, but they do exactly what BINOMISTAS are going to want them to do, even if they do end up going down. So, not really too many holes in their lineup right now. And as you mentioned, they're looking on the inverse side for a mid laner. BINOMISTAS are presumably going for their own mid laner in this situation, and they do have that fifth pick coming up before their opponents. So maybe that gives Inverse something to work with, some chance to sort of slam in some sort of surprise final selection. But in that middle lane, the options are not great in terms of a surprise pick, I would say. There's still heroes in the pool that can work out for them, but I don't think there's too much that they're going to be able to take here that BINOMISTAS wouldn't at least have been already considering.
And I really am struggling for a hero to find for them. Of course, with the Tiny and the Punk Band out, it's those active heroes that otherwise would feel pretty good for the inverse side. Because right now, they have a Venomancer offlane. They need sort of an Initiator, a Disabler, something to keep these heroes in the damage, or at least lock down enough that they're able to kill them. And with the bans out, if Beanomistas wanted to, they could have very well gone for the Monkey and the Bristle. The Monkey ban is a little bit alien, just because that makes you feel like Inverse are gonna end up picking a mid or a melee mid laner. But I don't think that's what Beanomistas is necessarily gonna go for. If I'm Beanomistas, I would probably just slam the Invoker right here, kind of counter initiation, plays into the Snowball, and they're gonna go Sand King. I think this is a deny pick actually. You take out the Sand King, you've already banned out the Tiny, and now if you're Beanomistas, or rather if you're Inverse, what do you do? What's the most active hero you can pick for your mid laner? Can you really afford going a hero like Ember Spirit versus Nyx Assassin Disruptor? They need something among those lines, and it just doesn't feel great. I don't think this is what Inverse wanted at all.
And it should be noted for Mini, as you said, might be a deny pick. We did also see that mid Sand King out from Mini yesterday in their series against SG Esports. So part deny pick, part maybe something that Mini is trying to push back into the meta here with the mid SK. So BINOMISTAS will be running it, gets them a mobile active hero, someone who can contribute a little bit more in the way of teamfight damage as well with that Epi. Meanwhile, Inverse, they're going for the Ember Spirit here. To be honest, I think that's probably one of the better choices that they had left, but I'm still not 100% sure about it. There's enough lockdown on the BINOMISTA side where the Miggy on this Ember could get locked down, and if he is locked down initially, it feels like BINOMISTAs are just going to be able to hammer away at him and bring him down pretty consistently.
And again, we've already seen Ember Spear once today. You need to have a standout performance. You can't just go 4-1-7. You need to be constantly playing up on this disruptor, on this Nyx Assassin. But at the same time, it's a disruptor. It's a Nyx Assassin. All it takes is one Carapace Impale in a Static Storm for you to feel like your game is suddenly over. And at the same time, you need to be putting at least a little bit of pressure on this Terrorblade. Otherwise, we're going to see a repeat of the first game of today where you just very simply, you give up your tower, you don't really care too much, you make your way towards the triangle, and you just farm, 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 because you always have the carry matchup. And in this situation, you have the offlane matchup too. There really isn't that much holding this TB down, and if he is able to farm towards that 25-30 minutes, gets BKB Scotty, again, TB's timings are all so strong that I feel like the game might just be blown wide open. And again, there is not a weak bone in BINOMISTA's body right now. Their draft is just so strong on pretty much every side.
They have hit every marker that they needed, ticked every box. They look pretty good. Inverse are going to have to pull out something that I think we're just not going to expect. Miggy has to go big on this Ember Spirit. You're going to need Quesadilla on that Luna to just somehow outfarm a Terrorblade, which technically speaking is possible, but it is going to be rough for them. Feels like Inverse have put themselves already sort of on the back foot, and we're just now loading into it. But at the end of the day, we always say it is a bit of a cliche, but it comes down to the execution. We'll see what Inverse can do. If they can get off to that strong start for their Ember Spirit, then obviously we're talking about a potentially different scenario, but they are going to need that kind of strong start if they really want to have a chance to match up against what BINOMISTAS have put together.
Ooh, and the pause, very characteristic of both the American or the Americas regions. But yeah, they really need to be careful. The biggest question mark for me right now is this Venom versus TB lane. What is he going to do to sort of circumvent the fact that you don't have Poison Sting? If you skill up Poison Sting when you're laning versus TB, it's a recipe for disaster. Benny will probably be a little bit patient, see which skill he wants to level up. But level 2, if there's a situation where the Venom does feel pressured, he really should just get as many points in Gale as possible and then try to keep the pressure on that way. Because otherwise, the lane is over. He's been counterpicked. There isn't much he can do about it. And that's where, again, I wonder if there is going to be enough pressure put on this Terrorblade. And that's where, again, the execution, Inverse, they need to play this mid game so solidly. Otherwise, I think BINOMISTAS could very well just farm towards a victory. Because that's not even counting the Nyx Assassin Ags, which is just incredibly powerful versus everyone. And that's where even once you have a little bit of farm and you're going to be able to get ahead slightly on the Luna, I'm not assuming too much further ahead than the TB, but you want to siege these towers. And you know what's the best hero of defending your towers? A Nyx Assassin Ags. Who is the hero to really stand up and kill him? I don't think there is one in this game, and I think that's quite a big hole that Inverse has sort of let through, even though you saw this Nyx Assassin that early. That's why most teams banned it out, but again, they must have some idea to play around it, or they don't think that it's going to be necessary for them to deal with, at least early on. So we'll have to see if their play is going to be able to outweigh their draft, I think, this one.
It just feels a little weird, though, if that is the mindset. You're going in with a Luna here, which every time we've seen it have success, it's not exactly a fast hero. That Luna looks to the sort of late game scenario to really hit her stride. So you would think in that sort of situation, Inverse would be wary of that Nyx Assassin. By the time you get to that late game stage, that Nyx could have that Aghanim Scepter finished off, and then you're dealing with a whole new sort of set of problems. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see how things play out. Inverse look like they have some sort of plan, but may have just been a little bit of a slight mistake not taking that Nyx Assassin away. We'll see exactly what BINOMISTAS can get out of it, but it just feels like the timings that Inverse are going to want will coincide directly with where BINOMISTAS will be in a position of power themselves. So we'll see which of those power spikes really sort of takes off best, but on paper, BINOMISTAS do seem to have the advantage, and as of right now, they still have the man advantage here in terms of actual player count. We do still have Quesadilla disconnected from the server, so that is why we're still paused. The Luna has DC'd, waiting for her to return. I don't think we're really worrying about anything along the lines of pause time for quite a while yet, so should not be too much of an issue. Hopefully Quesadilla can get back in quickly and we can get this first match underway, but it's just going to be tough for Inverse. I feel like we've come up with 3 or 4 different ways to say the same thing, but the point still stands. Their lineup has to do so much more to find success compared to their opponents.
And that's where sort of the wild card for me is this going to be mini Sand King, where if you get a little bit too much done, if you get this Blink Dagger at pretty much the same time where we see the Tiny, because Sand King, you don't buy phase boots. You're going to be getting your Blink Dagger as soon as you can. And that's where, again, Luna is one of those heroes that wants to be out and in front. And your save right now is Snowball. If Flax ever lets this initiation be too good, if he ever gets caught up in a Burrow Strike, your push is blown wide open. Your Luna is susceptible to these nukes, and that's where the Sand King, it does feel like a deny pick, but it also just feels like it's going to enable BINOMISTAS so much. I really like just every single aspect of their draft. Not even talking about the smaller things like the Nyx Assassin Ags, like the Aghanim Shard coming in from Disruptor, where you're going to be able to buff up this TB so much. If there is a surged Aghanim Shard Disruptor TB running at you, I think you just run away on Inverse. You literally can't fight that. There's nothing you can do about it.
This feels like it's going to be a little bit too much, coming at them too quickly. But who knows? Might have a plan here. I would assume the Luna at some point is going to be looking towards a BKB, and maybe that could be at least part of the solution, take away a lot of the lockdown capabilities on the BINOMISTA side, but that is going to require the Luna to sort of farm that up, and that is going to take some time. And so far across the matches we've seen today in that sort of previous series between Hikori and Lato Defenders, the team that has needed that time hasn't really been able to find it. Lato Defenders sort of struggled to get the PL farm. They struggled in game 1 to sort of find that space as well. So obviously these are different teams, different lineups, different scenarios, but the same overall theme sort of seems to be setting in here. You've got to buy time for that carry, and the question is, can you do so against that sort of teamfight capability on the opposing side?
And really, okay, Quesadilla is back in action here, but you need to be so careful because, again, if you fall too far behind, your lineup isn't the recovery lineup. This isn't the I'm going to fall behind and then do well. This is the we're going to pull ahead in our lanes, we're going to make these sideline rotations, and Luna's going to farm. And if any aspect, any cog in that wheel sort of fails, you are going to start seeing the enemy team just farm. And again, versus TB, you don't want to be going 50-50. If you go 50-50 with the TB is happy as a clam. He is just going to do whatever he wants. And again, drafting around this TB, BINOMISTAS have ended up with a lineup where he is going to take literally everything. As soon as you have your items on BINOMISTAS, not saying you're going to immediately stop farming, but there's always going to be space. There's always going to be a camp for Benny to go to. You're not going to have there's just no greed in their lineup at all, aside from this TB. So to that point, if Inverse can focus him down, if they can just kill the TB off, really sort of circumvent anything Benny wants to get going, that is going to be the sort of reliability they have there. But this is just such a strong 4 Protect 1 lineup they've got going for him. I really don't know if that's going to work out for him.
Yeah, feels like a much easier said than done kind of scenario here for that Inverse side. If they can pull it off, then yeah, a lot of this is going to be concentrated on Benny's Terrorblade, but you feel like BINOMISTAS aren't exactly going to let those opportunities just pop up whenever Inverse want to go for it. So if they can get the pressure, they're going to be in a good spot, but whether or not they're actually able to pull that off will be the big question for them. And I think it's going to come down quite a bit to how they sort of lane this one out. You see Quesadilla actually hanging out near the bottom lane, so they're looking like they're going to swap this one up. Melee sort of making his way towards the top lane. So you were talking about that situation for the Venomancer. You don't really want to put points into the Poison Sting up against the Terrorblade. For now, it looks like the solution is to just not have him in that lane at all.
Yeah, they have to do this. If they don't do this, it's just going to be a complete wash, and getting ahead is definitely the right choice here. Seeing the stick on Quesadilla makes me think that they might be trying to force a trying situation where if they can get a 1v1 Darkseer versus Veno, that is the only situation that I think this Veno is going to be extremely happy, because I can't imagine BINOMISTAS are going to want to keep lanes in a disadvantageous position for them. But at the same time, if you're going 50-50 with the TB, he's happy. If Benny's able to farm, there's a lot more pressure on Quesadilla in this bottom lane once these supports start duking it out. It's just the power of Disruptor being a little bit more effective in the trade than this Luna, or rather than this Witch Doctor, but we'll have to see what they're able to accomplish.
Interesting one. Slaw starting off with the point in the Maledict. So trying for a little bit of extra damage, but up against the Disruptor, this feels like a fight you're almost always going to lose unless Quesadilla actually gets involved, pushing his way over to drop the Lucent Beam down there, but still not really enough. Nuagas is able to fall back, he'll heal up with the Salve, and feels like 9 times out of 10, if those two supports are trading like that, your Disruptor is going to come out ahead. So if you're Nuagas, sure, you take a lot of damage, but you're okay with that trade-off, and he's going right back in for another attempt as he and Slaw are going to fight over this pull. Slaw, yeah, just straight up not going to let that one happen. Pretty easy deny for him there, but Benny still appears to be finding a decent amount of farm here. 7-1 for that TB. Obviously, the meta is going to be sort of winding down for him over the next couple of seconds, but this is what you want with that first meta. If you can't get first blood, you're just trying to secure the last hits, trying to push Quesadilla back a little bit, and this Luna is not having fun. One last hit on the board and getting pushed back underneath the tower here in the first 2 minutes.
And the reason I think he waited there for the Lunar Blessing was considering whether or not Benny was going to just go up that reflection, but up until you get that level 2 Lunar Blessing, you literally can't win the trades versus this Disruptor. He's going to keep spamming on you, he's going to keep trying to get these pulls going, and if Benny's just able to wait it out, the second meta, it's going to hurt. And again, this is more time where your Luna is not farming and she's not having a lot of fun. You're going to be able to recover a little bit. There was the wave pushing in, so having as little CS as he has, he will be able to get a few here and there. But still, this is going to be Luna put on the road to recovery. And actually, top lane?
Yep, in the top lane. Flax having to make the sacrificial play there, goes in for the shards. That does keep Sexy Fat and Jupiter away from melee, but the problem is he trapped himself in there with them. They've got the Ion Shell going to work, and the Tusk does get taken down. I think the kill was split a couple of ways as it was the Creeps who got the final hit, but it is still going to be a kill into BINOMISTAS' hands, and already we're seeing pressure being applied here. So we talked about the Venom maybe not having fun up against the TB. He's not having fun in this lane either. Whatever the matchup is, he's just going to be struggling in the early stages of this match. He's sitting on 8 last hits, so that's at least better than the Luna over in that bottom lane, but take a look at him right now. He's pushed all the way back to his own tier 2 tower. We are 3 minutes into the lane.
He's going to lose an entire wave to that tier 1 tower top. They're going to continue to fall behind level-wise, and look, they're just going to play behind your tower, and they're going to continue to get this aggressive on you. They completely can afford to do this.
Good play from Melee there in with that Venomous Scale, and he does have multiple points up in it here, so he is going to try and use that as sort of a defensive measure, but at this point, actually less
nice
defensive.
shards.
They're looking for the kill. Jupiter's going to get taken down. Sexy Fat, I think he was trying for the deny there, not going to be able to get it, and now Melee will take down the Darkseer as well, so, well, in the span of about 30 seconds, we go from talking about Melee struggling in this lane to suddenly grabbing himself a double kill there with the help of Flax. So it's still maybe not the greatest laning scenario for him, but if the Tusk is able to set up plays like that one, the Veno is going to be able to try and power his way through it and get as much out of this as he possibly can.
And it's a little bit unfortunate. They just struck a little bit too soon, I believe. There was quite the hefty courier coming in from the Nyx Assassin. Otherwise, I think they would have been pretty fine with everything that was going on. But just strike a little bit too soon, get 100% punished for it. At the same time, though, once the creep cut does begin, I don't really think they have the answers to stop it. Again, the best hero to rotate for that is going to be that Ember Spirit. And even just looking at bottom, they're still losing this bottom lane so hard. And I think Slaw? Yeah.
He got the courier snipe at least, but does lay his own life on the line for that one as Noagus was able to bring him down, and now
Quesadilla.
they're going to drop down the ward as well. Meanwhile, yeah, Quesadilla needs to back off here. He does have a Fairy Fire, but really all it would take from Benny is 1 or 2 more attacks and he could find that kill. So the Luna has to back away. Meanwhile, up top, Melee gonna get taken down. I mentioned earlier on, last time BINOMISTAS went in maybe a little bit too early. This time they've got that extra level up on the Darkseer, and when they find the initiation they want, they bring the Venomancer down, and BINOMISTAS are starting to pull away here. 1k net worth lead at just 5 minutes in. So it's not a massive advantage for them just yet, but they are beginning to sort of get a little bit of speed underneath them as down in the bottom lane, Nuagas gonna get taken down. Quesadilla and Slaw able to make that play happen, and Benny can't really do a whole lot here to defend that one. Without the meta available, just has to sort of sit there and watch his top lane. Sexy Fat dropping low. DOT from Melee will bring him down. Jupiter, though, trying to get in for the return kill onto Flax, and he will be able to find it. So that is going to turn into a 1-for-1 up top, and at this point, I don't think either of these two, really are going to be able to catch up to each other. Jupiter will simply walk away, but for support in the top lane, that's going to go well for Inverse at this point.
And it's the small trades that they need to continue to make because, of course, mid lane, it's going to be a draw. It's going to be a farm fest, and then it's going to be who makes their rotations more appropriately. We have this bottom lane. Of course, Luna is one of the better heroes at making those rotations to farming, is saving points up in Glaive right now. But still, this is quite
Wrapped
the
up
pressure put on him.
inside of the kinetic field, actually. They may be able to get this.
He's
Quesadilla
got
has very
glimpse.
little
Yeah,
HP.
he's dead.
They're just going to pull him back in. Can Quesadilla somehow dance in the tree line?
I think he wants to die at this point.
Maybe he's just going directly into the tower. So Quesadilla will be taken down, although the way he was running was a little bit weird. You thought if he was going to die, he would just go straight in for it, but either way, he will be taken down. But now here comes Miggy into the fight. He's got himself the double damage rune. They're going to look to jump in directly onto Nuagas, and they will finish him off. So you get your kill onto the Disruptor there. It does cost you the Luna. That's going to be a bit of a rough one for them, but over in the top lane, Sexy Fat in some trouble. He's going to get slowed up by the Gale, Poison Sting on him. He's even getting hit up by that tag team, and they will be able to take him down. Jupiter is in there with the Impale, but it's a little bit too late. They needed some sort of follow-up damage, presumably from the Darkseer, but Sexy Fat already dead. Melee's able to get that kill and fall back. Jupiter's stun, not really going to amount to much.
Yeah, and it does feel a little bit strange, like what was Jupiter doing during this time, because Miggy was already able to get that 6-minute rune, so maybe just a little bit of unlucky for them, but at the same time, Mini is just farming super efficiently. He could have a Blink Dagger right now, instead he's just going to go for those Boots of Travel. He's going to just explode farm-wise on the map. And then what are you going to do to really answer it? I don't think there is anything you can do to answer him at this point. He's going to just continue to accelerate. He's going to be like level 12, I think, around the time he gets his Blink Dagger. He's just going to farm so fast. And then that Epicenter, that's going to be the new threat. And that's where Melee and Quesadilla need to be so careful in those side lanes. And actually, they're just going top.
They're surged forward. They get the Impale. Mini's coming in, looking for the Burrow Strike. Actually not going to throw it out just yet. There it is. Burrow Strike comes out onto 2. They've taken down Melee. Flax is low as well. He's going to try to get away with the Snowball. Actually, less of a get away, more of a try to go for some sort of kill before he dies. And that is going to set them up for the kill onto Sexy Fat, as Melee gets the kill with that DOT. Jupiter is sort of ticking down as well, but this is the Poison Nova, so Jupiter can't actually die to it. He's going to be okay. He's got a TP. He could just get himself home, but overall, that's perfectly fine if you're BINOMISTAS. Mini makes the rotation in. You get 2 kills there for the cost of your Darkseer, and Mini's actually going to be able to bottle up an Arcane Rune here as well. So everything just sort of seems to be going the Sand King's way right now. He made that first rotation, and now he can look for another, as they do have eyes on Slaw.
I think they just barely walked past him, but they're going to see him now, and then it's a freebie.
Yeah.
They get a ward too, it looks like. They saw him place it.
Slaw taken down. They are, yep, going to go for the ward as well. So the kill and the ward gold. Mini is actually still making his way top, though. The Arcane Rune is still active for a little while longer, so maybe they could look for another play. They want it onto Flax. Burrow Strike is going to be there, but the backup's a little too far away. But at this point, Mini, he doesn't care. He's got that Ion Shell on him. The Impale comes through from Jupiter, and they just keep on pushing, and there's nothing really to stop him. The Tusk can't really make any sort of play there. There was no one TPing in. We do see a rotation coming over now, as the Venom is looking to return to the lane, but by this point, it's way too late for him to really do anything here, and at this point, Melee might want to be a little bit careful. Mini's still hanging around top, so they don't want to push too far forward. The Sand King has the Burrow as well as the Epi.
And with the Tusk dead, they don't have that sort of next hero to bring to the top lane. You're not going to be rotating your Witch Doctor. You don't have that sort of TP reaction, whereas with this build coming in from the Sand King, you're playing it like you're playing Bat Rider, where you get your teammates setting up on a wave, you TP to the creeps, and then something happens on the map. And Miggy is playing with fire here.
That was too much, just trying to trail on the play. Instead, he's going to get locked down. He can't jump away to the Remnant in time, as it was slowed up. And that one just felt, I don't know, it felt like he should have known better. Obviously, you know, we're all seeing here on the spectator side of things, but you know that really in that situation, Slaw is just running for his life. He's not going to turn around to help you. They're just trying to get away from that one, and Miggy just kind of feels like he bit off more than he could chew there, and now Jupiter going to be able to catch out Quesadilla in the jungle as well. Hits him up with a Vendetta. The Ion Shell was on him as well for the extra damage, and Inverse are really just starting to lag so far behind now. 3k down just 10 minutes in.
And a lot of these kills have been going towards the Nyx Assassin, and it's one of those 4 positions where if you're able to get farm in other ways, because you aren't a flash farmer, you're not going to be nuking out these waves, you're not a Hoodwinked or Alina. If you are able to get those items, though, you just feel so impactful. We even see Jupiter We'll see if he changes it up, but if you're able to get a Blink Dagger on this Nyx Assassin, it just makes that vacuum into Impale combo almost assured at that point. That's why we sometimes don't see it, because this Nyx Assassin doesn't usually get this much farm, but he is just getting so much out of the map. At the same time, both of his teammates are as well. They're making these smoke plays. They're playing together very, very nicely. Benny made the rotation out of his lane, and really, they don't have that same hero to just invade the enemy team's jungle. That hero is the Ember Spirit, and if they can just play around the fact, they play around his rotations, the idea of where this guy is, he's not going for that sort of early onset build. He doesn't have an Orb of Corrosion. He doesn't have that much early game damage coming from the Ember, and it almost feels like a mistake, but he needs to go for this more farm-oriented playstyle because it feels like they are lagging behind just a little bit too much on every side right now.
It's a weird sort of dichotomy for Inverse. You need that Ember Spirit to be sort of aggressive right now. He was the one that we were sort of looking at as the X factor for them, as Sexy Fat turning around, getting down the stun, or excuse me, the vacuum into the wall. They'll take down Slaw. Melee is going to look to TP himself out here. Mini, actually, if he stuck around, he might have had the damage to get that, but instead, they're going after Miggy. They hit him up with the, no. Nuagas, that's a little unfortunate there, as Miggy gets glimpsed out of the static and will be able to make his escape. Just trying to do too much there for the Disruptor. I don't think Nuagas realized he had him on the first attempt, just trying to sort of lock it down, and instead, Inverse get a bit of a freebie, and now they're going to be able to turn that one around for a kill, as Nuagas will be picked off himself.
Yeah, it's slightly unfortunate. I don't think he realized. I think he got in his own head a little bit there. His kinetic field was a little bit misplaced. I think if the Ember Spirit was able to walk down, he would have been fine, but that was the punishment. They had the Impel into Static Storm. I think he would have gone down if Mini was able to connect there. But now you have a Blink Dagger coming in from the Sand King. During all that time, Jupiter, again, was just stalking this Luna and pushing in the bottom wave, and he is still making quick heed towards this Blink Dagger. They're even just going to smoke up now. And again, this is all time where your Terrorblade is unimpeded. He is just farming away, not going for the Sanjin Yasha build. Once he gets this Manta style, he's going to explode another 150, 200 GPM, and there's nothing you can do about it. He's just going to continue to farm up, accelerate, and you don't really have that burst. And
he caught out Quesadilla in the jungle,
punished.
Hits him up. There's going to be the punish, though, yeah. Searing Chains comes in, Snowball there as well. They even hit him up with Maldic Slaw. I don't know if that was 100% necessary on the Death Ward, but not taking any chances. You need the kill. You need to avenge that Luna. They do manage to find it. That is a big kill for them. The problem is, you're still setting that Luna back, and really she's the one who can't afford to be taken down right now. You are so far behind in this Luna, lowest net worth among those core heroes, so it is nice that they get the kill in exchange, but who else is really going to lead the charge for them if not that Luna? The Ember Spirit was sort of the guy we were looking at initially, but he sort of hit a bit of a snag here as well, so it just seems rough for Inverse. They're at least trading things out, but as you said before, you can't really afford to go 50-50 against the TB, against this BINOMISTAS lineup, otherwise it's not really going to play to your advantage.
And you do trade an active hero for a recovery hero, right? So it doesn't feel that bad, but you can see Jupiter, just the small plays where, oh, we're going to block your Ancient. We didn't put a Sentry in there because we don't want to give you too much gold, and you're continuing to hamper the Luna's farm. You could even make the call that, okay, Luna's not farming her triangle after respawning. She's probably playing in this top side of the map. If we don't see her show bottom, then we're going to make this play mid. It's just BINOMISTAS are making the right calls around the map, and they're really kind of forcing Inverse into a shaky position. You even see bottom tower. It's pretty much full HP. They kind of have to give up on the push as soon as Mini shows there, but he has TP. He's able to get anywhere on the map. And now they've got a choice. Do they want to try and catch the Luna farming in the top lane, or do they want to play around the bottom lane and try to push another tier 1 tower? This is all time that the Luna isn't farming her triangle. This is time that, again, Benny is just doing whatever he wants.
Yeah, the TB just continues to push his way forward while your Luna is still farming, technically speaking, but not to the same level of efficiency by any means. So Quesadilla obviously trying to get whatever he can and stay safe, but it's easier said than done. You even see the TB illusions sort of making their way into that north side jungle. So the Luna just has to sort of stay mobile, stay on the move, even inside of her own jungle, and at the end of the day, you're still finding those last hits, but if you have to sort of back away, if you have to sort of flinch at sort of every shadow from BINOMISTAS, then the efficiency isn't going to be there, and right now, efficiency is what the Luna needs. You either need more efficient farming, or you need another 10 to 15 minutes of actual farming time, so Either one of those appears to be in the cards for Inverse at this particular moment, but we'll see what they can do, and we'll see whether BINOMISTAS go on the offensive again. They're up by 6K right now. They've been able to sort of make these plays, and if they can continue to do so, it is going to be incredibly valuable to them. I don't think they really want to just sit back and wait this one out at this point. You've got the TB farming, but the rest of the lineup doesn't have to just sort of sit around and wait.
And unfortunately for me, he was able to get an illusion rune there, but it's just the space that you have to work with. Right now, I'm seeing 5 inverse heroes playing in the same lane, and I'm seeing 3 BINOMISTAS heroes playing in 2 other lanes. It feels like the efficiency is just there for them. And now, do they want to defend this bottom tower? That's going to be a harder decision. They have the level 2 epicenter, they have the ultimate on the disruptor, and that's where a massive fight could break out, one where Inverse might be able to take them off guard with how heavily stacked they are here. But again, if they play this fight bottom, if they don't make that decision fast enough, this is going to go completely in the other direction. So this is all in execution here.
Jupiter gonna act as the bait. Here comes that epicenter. Can he jump in? Yes, he can. They're gonna go in onto the Tusk first, but they've already lost Jupiter, so that's one hero dead, but they do manage to trade it out. They're taking down Flax. They're gonna look for melee as well. He does manage to throw down that Poison Nova, though, which means Mini has to try to get away, but Searing Chains actually roots him up. He's not gonna be able to get himself out. Mini will fall. Now Quesadilla in with the Eclipse. They will take down Sexy Fat. Melee does have to trade his life, but this is gonna go incredibly well for Inverse. The Wagas has nowhere left to run, hiding in the tree line in Inverse. As you said, they stacked up, they take the fight, they do lose a couple of heroes, but it's a triple kill for your Ember Spirit, 4 for 2 overall, and that is exactly the play that Inverse were hoping to make down in this bottom lane when they rotated the heroes in the first place.
And really, it's the sacrificial play coming in from Flax. They bring enough heroes. They use so much on that Tusk to just take him out, make sure he doesn't get that immediate Walrus Punch out of it. But at the same time, they dive in deep. As soon as Mini sort of launches his initiation, the fight just goes completely on the other side. He tried to TP out there at the end, but it's just a beautiful chains follow-up coming in from the Ember Spirit. And this is just a fight that Benny doesn't want to show up to. He wants to continue farming. And that's where BINOMISTAS, they can still make mistakes. They can still decide, okay, we're going to get greedy. We're going to defend our tower instead. And then 100% they get punished for it. The other option would have been to just play with their Terrorblade, and Benny was able to claim that top tier too. So of course, not all is lost. You even see the gold lead still pretty much staying the same. But once Benny decides to get involved, there still is that looming threat of how are we going to deal with this TB? And I honestly don't know myself. They need to wait so long. There's so many conditions that need to be met. And fortunately for them, that was a fight that started on the Nyx Assassin. If the fight doesn't start on the Nyx Assassin, that counter initiation is terrible. If that Carapace ever lands on the Ember Spirit, that's where the fight goes just completely in the other direction. But they found the options, and really just a picture-perfect fight for them. The issue is they need to continuously get those fights. You still have Quesadilla recovering, playing on the back foot. They need to leverage this Ember Spirit just even more. And to that degree, they need to somehow hike up their vision a little bit. I love this ward in the bottom jungle that they've been able to place after that little team fight win. But this is just the beginning. They need to keep it rolling. And once they keep this roll going, then they need to find at least one kill onto Benny. Without that, I really don't think they have sort of a shot. If they just need to keep this momentum going. If they don't, then this TB is just going to roll you over.
Yeah, he's just farming so efficiently right now. So you have, as you were sort of saying, really 2 options. You either get directly onto the TB, or you need to continue trying to force those fights that Benny isn't really going to want to take part in. Neither one of those are exactly easy options for Inverse to pull off, but you've got to pick one and go for it. You can't really afford to just sort of sit back. The Luna is recovering, but you're still sitting 3.5, 4K behind the TB's net worth right now. So I'm going to try and do something as we do get everybody back into the server, so we will be resuming the match, and we'll see what the play is here for Inverse. Miggy's holding on to an Invis rune for a little while longer, so maybe he could look for something aggressive, but he'd have to push onto his opponent's side of the map to do so, and without backup, I don't really think that's a realistic option for him. So Miggy's simply going to fall back. He's farming his way towards a BKB here on this Ember. So if he can finish that one off, a lot of the lockdown that BINOMISTAS had previously been using to sort of keep him out of the fights will no longer be nearly as sort of threatening to him. And that's going to free up a lot of space for Miggy to potentially operate, but he's got to get there first. And with the Luna still taking a lot of this jungle farm, it's maybe not going to be quite as simplistic for him to just farm his way to that BKB pickup.
And that's where that bottom fight was really sort of their only option. I don't think you're going to be able to make a pass at that mid tower for a very long time on the inverse side. That's like BKB timing for the Luna sort of deal, where they don't have the heroes to make those active plays. The Luna just wants to farm up. She's working towards her own Manta style right now, but sitting 4K net worth behind Benny. Benny is the exact opposite. He's almost at his Scotty. He is going to force you, and the towers, they just drop. They fall so quickly. Not only that, everybody on their team is just farming so efficiently. We're not seeing the Ags build on the Nyx Assassin. I'm a little bit sad, but might be playing into the Veno Ward counter where you don't want to be sort of just sat there getting hit up. But at the same time, this means that Darkster's going to get a little bit more space. He already has a mech. He's working towards that Ags. And once you have those shells sort of just put out on everyone, we already see the inverse heroes. They're struggling to kill these TB illusions, and they're just walking down lanes.
It's not a great sign for them right now. And speaking of not great signs, this is a problem. Quesadilla caught out in the top lane. Mini drops the epicenter and the Burrow Strike. They get the Static Storm down there as well from the Disruptor. And Quesadilla, I mean, we were talking about a potential BKB for him later on down the line, but we're 20 minutes in. He does not have that kind of defensive strength right now as Quesadilla gets shut down, and they jumped in mid on to Miggy, able to take down the Ember Spirit, knowing he was alone because the Sand King was able to sort of scout out this rotation up in the top lane. So they realize the Ember's alone. There's no one to bail him out there. There's no sort of defensive snowball from Flax. They jump right in, and they manage to find another big kill, and now they're eyeing up the Roche Pit, and really, with 2 of those cores still dead, there's nothing Inverse can do to stop this.
It's Scotty finished. He feels completely comfortable. It's the chain mid was insane. It was just perfectly played. The Carapace into Impale, into the vacuum pullback. He had a remnant. He felt like there was no chance of him dying with the static form committed.
Flax?
And now even Flax, you gotta be so careful here, man. But this is just free Aegis for the Terrorblade, and I'm getting feelings of that first game, that first series of the day, and well, they're just going forward.
Wow, all right, Mini wants in.
Gets to the illusion.
And now the Yule's locking down the Veno. And Melee, he can't go anywhere. Scotty's just going to slow him down. He could try to turn around for some damage, but even that's not really going to work out for him. And now, oh my goodness, Jupiter blinks forward. They get in onto the Ember Spirit. They're going to lock him down. Can they pull him back? Yes, they can. Glimpse will be there. Can Miggy dodge it? Yeah. That timing, very key for him. If he gets pulled back there, he's dead. There's really no way back out after that. So had to time it up perfectly. He's able to get himself away, but if you're BINOMISTAS, you still, oh god, you still got the fight.
Oh, nice double stun.
Stun in, they get the Impale down as well. They're going to try and go after that Ember, and they've got him. Miggy's dead, Slaw's gone as well. Tier 2 tower now going to get picked off, and just when you think Inverse are sort of out of the woods there, BINOMISTAS are right back in onto it with the Blink and the Burrow. Mini just has way too much in the way of actual maneuverability, and Jupiter with his own Blink is right there behind him to keep that fight going.
It's just a sliver of vision, and they immediately go for the punish, and half of your tier 3 tower is now dead. The glyph is forced, so now they have this free option to kill this bottom T2 if they want that for Benny, and he's even just working towards an Agnib Scepter, and once he has that, you need BKBs on this Luna, you need BKBs on this Ember Spirit. Ember should be able to finish before this next big fight goes out, but if they really wanted to push the envelope, I feel like Quesadilla is not going to have a BKB to answer. And again, look at BINOMISTAS. All of their pings, they're just saying, okay, we know where these heroes are. We know where these heroes are. Make the call, make the play. Their movements are just so clean every single time. And we'll have to see, is this Shard? No. No Shard on the Disruptor yet, but I'd love to see him get it. And then really, this Terrorblade is just going to be on another level. It already feels like he's on another level, but once he gets these few more supplemental items, there's nothing they can do about it. There's absolutely nothing that the side of Inverse can play around this Terrorblade. That's why we see this hero first phase so frequently. And getting it last pick of the second phase, I don't blame him for how hard a game this is going to be.
This feels like, I don't know. At the end of the day, you would say, you know, you should ban out the TB every time, but it's just that simple, but it simultaneously isn't. I know that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense here, but that is the way that the game goes, as Nuagas is going to get himself jumped in on. Jupiter, though, quick to TP in. They'll drop down the Static Storm. They get a TP over from the Darks here as well, so they are trying to force this fight, but they want in onto the cores rather than Flash. They've spotted out the Venomancer. They get down the wall into the vacuum, into the Epi, and Melee will be taken down. At least Miggy was able to jump himself away, so that's going to sort of be some sort of good news for them, but elsewhere on the map, they're still losing heroes. Slaw ran down the kill onto Nuagas, but now he has to deal with both Mini and Sexy Fat, and he's really just not going to be able to do so, as Sexy Fat gets the kill with the Ion Shell, and I don't know. That felt a little maybe a little bit too greedy from the side of Inverse. You think you're only going in onto Nuagas, but those TPs are in so quickly that you're really just not able to get yourself away. And now Mini, he's looking for another kill. Jumping in onto Flax. Can Flax TP away in time? Yes, he can. No burrow up for about 5 more seconds. So at least you're able to get your Tusk out of there safely, but BINOMISTAS just are really able to find any fight anywhere at any time.
And they do buy the space. You have double BKB now on your cores. You should be able to get something going for you now. It's just about the initiation. If BINOMISTAS do botch it, if they blink in, immediately get the BKBs off, the chain isn't there, then the fight is going to get a lot harder for them. The issue being, Benny has this Aghanim Scepter. If one stun lands, if Mini hits anything, if Jupiter hits anything, it's going to be chained up with that fear wave. And then I feel like you're going to get feared, you're going to get dragged back in by the vacuum. And that's where we haven't seen them sync up. They've just been finding initiation on their own. Mini is just consistently finding 2 heroes with every single burrow strike. And while you did buy the space, now everything is going to come down to this team fight. If you don't get your BKBs off on Inverse, you lose instantly. If you do get your BKBs off and these heroes just tank through you with the mech, with the iron shells coming in from Sexy Fat, you still lose. There's not much you can do about it. And that's where the stakes were at that point where if you lose one more team fight, you don't have Glyph, you use your BKBs, you can't walk up to the TB. That's where this game is going to end very quickly for the Inverse side.
Really coming down to a do or die sort of situation for Inverse. If they can't make it happen, then you're not really going to have any time left to recover. And theoretically speaking, they are capable of taking this fight, but it's going to require so much from them. The BKBs have to be timed out perfectly. They have to sort of just bait out really all of those major spells from the BINOMISTAS side, and then even then you have to hope that some of those spells just straight up miss. Sure, your Luna and Miggy on the Ember Spirit are going to be safe, but Melee doesn't have that protection outside of a pipe. Your 2 supports are going to be in trouble if they get hit up, so if the BKBs are perfect, if you can dodge a spell or 2, if you can survive all of that, then maybe there's some sort of path for them, but that is asking for quite a lot of breaks to sort of go your way, and you're basically asking for BINOMISTAS to sort of make multiple mistakes in a single team fight, which is something we really have not seen from them as of yet. There have been maybe 1 or 2 scenarios where we've seen them overextend, maybe get a little bit too greedy, but nothing to that extent. Nothing just sort of straight up team fight losing so far, outside of maybe that one fight down in the bottom lane about 15 minutes back.
Yeah, and hopefully, yeah, G's are being dropped for the game to get underway. And if Benny wants to, he could take the lone slow road, just push into this bottom tier 2 tower, take it out, and again, continue to get this net worth lead in their favor. I feel like they do want to use this Aegis a little bit more aggressively, but with those, oh, interesting from Mini. Wrong, you see what he was looking up earlier. It's the wrong copy paste. Might have been a Roche timer, but you know, man of culture. But they will probably use this Aegis at least a little bit aggressively. I'm sure Benny wants to die. He wants to try and get an objective for it. But at the same time, if they want to set up for that second Roche, you got Agshard on the table. It feels like every single TB that gets the first Aegis of the game is in just such a good spot going forward.
Yeah, Benny at this point, as you said, kind of just wants to die, or at least wants to force the fight. Minute left on that sort of timer, so just going to push forward and basically dare someone to come stop it. Looking for the tier 2 down bot. You see Mini TPing his way over onto the creep wave. The teammates are sort of coming up from behind, so if you're Inverse, realistically speaking, you should know that this is a setup play, but I'm not really sure they can afford to ignore it. But yeah, Jupiter blinks forward. Slaw's going to get dropped down here pretty quickly as Mini finds the kill, and, well, that's not exactly what Inverse wanted. They lose a hero, they lose a tower, there's no buyback on that Witch Doctor, and now Benny wants onto the high ground. He's going to push his way forward, holding the meta for now. Never mind, they'll pop it. They can tear away down into the Static Storm, into the Burrow Strike. Miggy's dead. Straight up gone, no buyback available on that Ember, and the BINOMISTAS, I mean, they don't have to use the Aegis, but they are exactly where they want to be right now, pushing their way forward. Tier 3 tower will fall, and the racks are now under attack, and Benny didn't actually use the meta. It was just the temporary transformation from the Terror Wave, so he's still holding on to that Metamorphosis if they really do want to go all in for this one. And it looks like they have the opportunity. Sexy Fat in there with that back wall into the Impale. And I don't know what Inverse do now. They're 4 heroes down. There's buybacks on 2 as Flax and Melee could buy back, and they will have to. Benny going onto those tier 4s will sort of force them into action, but at this point, what do? Benny no longer has the Aegis, so maybe they can make the jump in onto him, but they've got problems. Flax immediately going to get jumped in on that buyback, not really accomplishing much of anything for him, and Benny does not care about anything anywhere around him. He's just going to sit here and continue to dish out that damage, but Quesadilla coming in, BKB pop, they're going to look for the kill. Can they get onto the TB? He needs a sunder target. He doesn't have one right now, but he is going to be able to sunder his teammate. Sexy Fat is there to act as the battery, and Benny will live for the time being, but he doesn't have a whole lot of HP, but now here comes the Epi into the Burrow Mini.
Oh, perfect.
Okay,
That's it.
Yeah. Mini just says, get the hell out of my game. Inverse not dropping the GG just yet, but that is just an exclamation mark on this match. Mini just completely slammed the door in their face, and they're going to push for that second lane of Rack. They should get it fairly easily, and at this point, Benny doesn't have any HP, but he doesn't really have to care. There's no one alive to stop him, so he's going to sit. He'll maybe just go for the Sunder onto a teammate once it's back up, and outside of that, there's really no worries for BINOMISTAS, as they will pursue the Mega Creeps, really just trying to put the ultimate sort of clamps down onto Inverse.
And Nuegas is running. He did not want to get sundered. Yeah, you see Benny, he's like, come on, guys, please, someone. But they're having some fun with it. They're going to get a little bit serious here, but yeah, Inverse, they had a very slim chance there. If Flax was still alive, I think they probably do get Benny, but got a little bit ahead of himself. They had that situation. I thought if BINOMISTAS played a little bit right, they would have just backed out as soon as the Ember Spirit respawned, because there was that situation where he had to sunder his teammate, but just a nice double stun into the way. Oh, it's perfect.
Okay. I don't know what the plan was there for Inverse, but whatever it was, it doesn't work. They just get completely blown up there. That's going to be the GG called. They were willing to give it one last attempt, but when that falls apart, they will concede defeat here as BINOMISTAS will take game one, and they do so in obviously pretty strong fashion, looking incredibly strong here in the opening match of this best of three.
Yeah, and with execution that clean, you know, there's not much to say, but I do feel like just from the get-go, even though they didn't get the lane setup that they wanted, Benny was just set up to win this game. He really had no opponent to lane versus. After the fact, he was never persecuted. He was never chased around in his own jungle. We never saw a TB get punished. And it's something that is so difficult, where you have all of these active heroes. They played the 4 Protect 1 style perfectly. And then it's just two kills immediately into the pit, pops meta. You have this Venomancer, you have this Tusk. You try to contest, you try to do anything, and you can't. There's nothing you can do. At the same time, Quesadilla was on the opposite end of that stick, where you had maybe 1 or 2 early deaths. It's like, okay, sure, you get picked up by that Jupiter Nyx assassin, you get punished here and there, but then you never find a way back into the game. Your team, even though you had that good one team fight bottom, it just didn't matter. You always have this looming TB playing in the other side of the map. And then to compound everything, just getting that pick on Miggy bottom, where it was very simple. It's just a very simple blink into Burrow Strike, into the fear. They aren't ready. There's no save. Flax can't even be in a position to save his teammates. The AoE is just too strong. The Tusk can never really get that close to save his teammates. And I think Inverse, they got a little bit too ahead of themselves. Their draft just wasn't good enough. And at the same time, BINOMISTAS, their execution, their draft, it just felt flawless.
Every time they needed that stun combo, anytime they needed the initiation, really it was there. And if you're Inverse, it just feels like every aspect of their lineup ended up sort of falling short of what they needed. Quesadilla, as you said, couldn't really find the farm or the damage. Melee on that Veno really did not do much of anything. I was trying to sort of find some sort of silver lining there, but he really did struggle throughout all of it. And Miggy, we talked about how important it was going to be for that Ember Spirit to be the guy sort of carrying the torch, be that one to get the strong start that Inverse would need to create the space for the Luna, and that just does not happen. 5, 6, and 4 on the Ember, maybe not the worst stat line we've ever seen, but his impact really just seemed to drop off, and even when the BKBs were picked up on the Ember and the Luna, it wasn't really enough to swing those fights in their favor. All it did really was extend their lives by a couple of seconds at the most. So the BINOMISTAS, we mentioned it back in the draft, really felt like they had ticked every box. They got everything that they wanted and needed, and we can see the results there. Excellent execution for them as they take that first win.
Yeah, and just Tusk Veno. It's not good enough. Come on, guys. We can do better, I think. And really just not banning out the TB. It's just, I feel like BINOMISTAS, it was just so simple. They just got every single thing they wanted. I think Inverse can do much better this time around.
Yeah, we better see that TB either banned out or taken by Inverse there in that next match. Otherwise, we're going to have some very strange questions for them. So we'll see. If Inverse make that kind of adjustment, they're going to need to do something a little bit differently if they want to fight their way back into this one. So we are going to be hopping into a bit of a break here. Game 2, though, between BINOMISTAS and Inverse will be coming your way in just a little bit. We'll see if BINOMISTAS can get that clean 2-0 sweep, or if Innoverse are going to be able to get the win in Game 2 to push this to a full 3-game series.